If we allow gender expression to appear on a spectrum, as is apparently the case in the real world, where people have the freedom to do so, then for you to put your limited capacity to think on a spectrum in a law that inhibits the freedom of others, that's not a free country. The transgenderism usually involves hormone readjustments, okay? Testosterone, estrogen. And so we can imagine a future of sports where you're not contesting men against women, you're contesting people in certain brackets of hormone levels. If you went through puberty as a male,
yes,
and then transitioned afterwards, right, then you'll have a bigger, typically bigger, stronger
and that's
body.
where I just...
So one possibility, like I said, I'm just making this up on the fly, is you have hormone categories. If that does not solve the problem, or to the extent that it doesn't, then you put in other rules that separate who's competing with whom. Like I said, we do this all the time.
Right.
All right? And by the way, are you going to go to Michael Phelps and say, you're genetically taller and we have a floppier, I don't know if all of this is true, but some of it is true, you have floppier ankles and webbed fingers, and so we're not going to compete you in this race because you'll have an advantage that other people don't. No, we don't do that, do we? In fact, when you really analyze it, practically every gold medal, record-setting Olympic athlete has some genetic thing going on in them that other people don't have. But if you look at world records from world-class athletes, let's say track and field, the 100 meters, men are about 10% faster. 200 meters, 10%. It fluctuates, but on average it's about 10. The marathon, the men do it about 10% faster, okay? And you look at reflexes, it's about 10% faster. Where you have the biggest differences in weightlifting. But for speed and reflexes, it's about 10% faster. So if you wanted to find out where the top women's athlete would land among men, you look at serving speeds, for example, because that's how fast you can bring the racket to the ball, and find the point where the women's serving speeds match up with the men's serving speeds, okay? And then that's where you would land in the world rankings. What I will tell you is, people pay to watch sports not for how good the athlete is, they watch sports for how good the contest is. We love watching college football. Why? Because the contest is equal, and you don't know who's going to win in advance. If you knew who was going to win in advance, you would never watch the sport. So what you do is, in the future, what you would do is, so if the hormone levels categories don't work, then there are other categories, reflex categories, okay? Have people compete in reflex categories. I would love that, okay? Then there are people with pretty slow reflexes, they'll have different strategies and how they would win, and group them together. By the way, in chess tournaments, your chess rating puts you in a category where you only compete with other people in that rating.
That's
you
true.
don't compete against people where you beat them in 10 moves.
That is true.
So we're still at the dawn of how we will or should organize the future of sports in recognition of the gender spectrum. And we just have to put some creativity behind it.
Yep.
I don't see any problem with it. That's why I never wrestled a 120-pound person.
I would like to have seen that. Would have been quite entertaining. Now, when we come back after
in the octagon, you'd pay to see that.